In this video, we use Excel to complete a normal distribution problem. And I'm going to use this particular example, which is the average return of large cap domestic stocks over the 3 years. So first we have the average and we have the standard deviation of X. And we absolutely need those two numbers in order to do a normal distribution, okay? So you have to have the average and the standard deviation. Part A says what is the probability that X, and here we use the random variable X to represent the stock fund, so the domestic stock fund. So what's the chance that X is at least 20%? So the return is 20%. You want to set that up in our Excel sheet to look like this. So we want to start with the probability statement. So it says here, what's the probability that X is bigger than 20? Next, we convert X to Z using what we call the Z-score formula, which is given by this, X minus mu divided by the standard deviation. Then we plug our numbers in. So remember, 20 is the value for X that we want to convert. We subtract the average value, 14.4. We divide by the standard deviation, 4.4. Then we rewrite our statement to be in terms of Z. So the sign stays the same. It's still greater than. But wherever we see X, we put Z. Then on your scratch paper, you could sketch the bell curve. And the reason for doing that is you want a visual of the area you want to find, because we're dealing with a continuous random variable. And in that case, the area below the curve is the same as the probability. So we want to sketch the area, which is also the value of the probability. When we do that sketch, what we're going to see, and I have it somewhere else. Let me see if I can bring that up. So it should look something like this. So notice that we sketch the bell curve and the area to the right of 1.27, this one right here. However, what we see is that this is not cumulative form because it's greater than. This is not cumulative. Cumulative needs to be in the less than form. So to get it to be like that, we subtract from 1 to have this value. And then once we subtract from 1 right here, then we have our answer. And the formula that you use in Excel is given like this. So 1 minus norm dot S, let me make sure you can see that. Dot S, and then C3 represents the cell that we did our Z value in right there. And then true means it's cumulative. Okay, so that's what we do in the case when it's greater than. Let's see an example of when we're dealing with X less than something. So let's say we wanted to look at what's the probability that X is less than 10%, 10% return. We again convert from X to Z, and that value for Z is now -1 right here. So that's the formula we use. Again, using the Z-score formula. Then notice that this is already in cumulative form because it's less than. So we can just go right into that. So there's no subtracting from 1 here. And we just go directly to Excel and we do our procedure. Norm.S.this, and then C11 is -1. It's the value in C11. And if you're new to Excel, C11 just means the cell in column C, row 11. Next, we look at part C, which asks for the probability that the return is between 10 and 20%. So for that one, we are going to write our statement out again. So this is what it looks like. Then we convert. This time we need to convert two values to Z. So we start with the lower number 10. We do the conversion. And then we do the same thing for 20. Do that conversion. And then we rewrite our statement in terms of Z so that we have that. And then importantly, this is not cumulative because it's between, it's not strictly less than. And so we need to convert this to cumulative, and this is how we do that. So this is a cumulative form. Again, we take the bigger number, we subtract the smaller number to get the shaded area that's left. And in terms of a graph, you definitely want to do the graph in this case. So this is what it looks. This is a quick sketch of what we're looking at. So this is the between. So the way we get our answer is to find everything less than -1 and subtract it from everything less than 1.27. And that's everything all the way back to negative infinity. So the reason why we have to have it in the form of cumulative is because that's what Excel recognizes. So when we go to Excel and we ask for the values less than 1.27, it's going to give us a cumulative. Notice it says cumulative right here, cumulative. We said true. So it's a cumulative value. So it's everything less than 1.27. Subtract from that everything less than -1. And our final answer is given right here. Next, we turn to the case when we have to do the inverse. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so how big does a return have to be to put a domestic stock in the top 10%? For that, you definitely want to start with a sketch. And the sketch I did in the previous video looks like this. So it needs to look something like this sketch right here. So the top 10%. So this is going to help you to see that what we actually want to find is this x1 value. So the probability that x is greater than x1 is 10%. Okay? So why we call this the inverse is because in this case we're given the probability and we need to find the x value. We're used to having the x value and having to find the probability. That's what we're used to. So in this case, we're working in reverse. So let's go ahead and see how we would approach this thing. Okay, so first of all, we see that this is not cumulative form. So we just rewrite this in terms of z. And we see it's not cumulative because this is greater than. We needed to say less than. So the way to do that is to subtract from 1. So we literally just say 1 minus this thing, and then 1 minus this thing. And what we get is these things. Z less than Z1 and 0.90. Okay, so that's what we have. And now we're ready to bring this to Excel. So let's go ahead and do that. And in Excel, this is what we see. Right here, we're going to go directly to norm.s.int. Notice it says inverse, right? Not this. The ones we looked at earlier were this. This one says inverse. And the only thing you need to put here is the area to the left, the 0.9. And so we do that, and we have our z value. But we're not done yet. Remember, we needed to find x. So the formula to do that conversion, again, you can see it here, is right here. So we just need to make x the subject. So a little bit of algebra. We need to make x the subject of this formula, and that's what we do. So what is x? We cross multiply, we just get x by itself, and this is how we do it. It's the mean plus sigma times z. And so we do that in our next step. Mean plus sigma times the value above. So you didn't have to round this value because you're using Excel, you're not using the normal tables, okay? So you get the more, so this Excel answer is the most precise answer you can get. 20.04 pretty much, if you round that to 2 decimal places.